Hi everyone, it's Anna here. Just wanted to give you some general feedback on the second assignment as you're putting your finishing touches to the third assignment. Given that the timelines are so tight between assignments in this unit, we are putting together this general feedback so that you can take some of it on board to help you finalise the next assessment, which is the third one. Keeping in mind that these assessments are quite different in nature, the second assignment was a research report, and the third assignment you'll be putting together a career action plan, which is very much filling out the template provided. So quite a different structure and style, but we thought that the feedback in certain areas is still relevant, and I've also included some general report writing feedback for you to take on board for your future assignments if you are doing report writing. So I'm just going to start with the written communication section. Now, a lot of the feedback that we gave you for assignment 2 is still very relevant for assignment 3 as well. So please have a look and make sure that you've reviewed that feedback when you're putting together your assignment, because a lot of that is relevant and some of it is repeated here as well because we've seen the same things happening. So one of the most important things in your written communication element of your assignments is that you proofread your work. Okay, make sure that you do some fine editing before hitting the submit button. Check your spelling, punctuation, any small errors that may be there, and ensure that you're using the correct writing style for the assignment task. So for assignment 2, we're wanting you to write it as a business report. So it's important that you understand what that means and what style of writing you need to do. So in assignment 3, we're looking for you to provide some short answers to specific questions, and we're wanting you to structure those as paragraphs for a lot of it, and really consider the writing style that you're using and the structure of your responses, similar to how you would put together answering a job and person specification or a specific job criteria when you're putting together a job application. So don't just put it in note form or bullet point form or dot points. It's important that you communicate your ideas in a really clear and concise writing style, and make sure you stay on track and answer the specific question. A lot of people went off track, off tangent, and even though the information was quite interesting, it wasn't really relevant to the actual question or the assignment task. So really important that you stay on track and answer the specific question. This is certainly the case for assignment 3 as well. We'll be looking to give marks to the answering of each question. So make sure you cover them all off and that you stay on task. I've already mentioned, but just try to avoid using bullet points in the main section of your assignment. So look to structure your paragraphs and expand on each key point rather than just making a key point and then moving on. Even though you feel like you're just putting a lot of useful information, and the more information you put in, the better, often that's not the case. We're actually looking for you to put in less and really explain and analyse the information that's there, rather than just put it in there and then move on to the next point. So be mindful of that when you're putting your answers together for assignment 3. When you're considering your paragraph structure and the intent of your paragraphs, look to incorporate the teal approach. Now, we talked about that in the collaborate session for the second assignment, and for some of you, we really saw that, which was fantastic. And it was great that you took on board that approach, and it really helps with the flow of your assignments and really helps us to follow what you're saying. So look to have a topic sentence, which is the T, and then there's evidence and explanation for the 2 E's. So make sure that you're backing up what you're saying. So if you're talking about a particular topic point, then that's what your evidence and explanation of your research needs to support. And then you finish off with what's called a linking sentence, where you're either summarising what you're saying or you're linking to the next part of your report. This is particularly important when writing reports or essays. When you're putting together your short answer questions for assignment 3, just consider the structure of your responses, not so much as a paragraph, but that your responses are structured really well and that they have been put together with some thought. You're not just throwing together some random ideas and, as like I said before, putting as much information as possible. We're looking more for quality information that demonstrates a really good understanding and communicates your skills and knowledge and strengths. Consider us as future employers and try to impress us with your writing style. Okay, so if we move on to the referencing, which you'll find in pretty much most university assignments, and all the referencing feedback we gave you for assignment 1 is relevant pretty much for assignment 2. So important with your in-text citations, it is really good academic practice to include page numbers if known. Okay, it's essential when you're using direct quotes, and it's certainly encouraged if you're using paraphrased information. So if you know a page number from a textbook or a journal article, be sure to include it in your in-text citation. Okay. Now, it's also encouraged to cite the e-text and the learning materials if you've used them in your assignments. Lots of people have undertaken the readings, which is fantastic and what we want you to do. And if you've used that to put together your assignment, then reference it as well. It's really important to do that. It demonstrates to the reader that you've read the weekly readings and that you're able to make links to the course content, which at the end of the day is what we want you to be doing with the things that we're teaching you. Now, make sure that your reference list aligns directly with what you have in your in-text citations. This is easy marks and easy marks to lose as well. So if you have an in-text citation that doesn't appear in your reference list, or you've cited something in your reference list and you haven't included it in text, then marks will be taken off. So double check this before you submit. Go through and write down all the references that you've referred to in text and then include them. Make sure that there's a corresponding entry in your reference list. Now, this is different to be putting together a bibliography. If you're asked to put together a bibliography, that's looking at all the different sources that you've used to research your assignment, whether you've included them or not in your actual work. When you're referencing with Harvard style, for example, you're only to reference the ones that you've cited in text. You don't include all of the research you've undertaken. So students do get this confused, and it's really important to just double check before you submit that your reference list and your in-text citations match. In this unit, it's important to let us know what reference style you are using so that we can mark that. Now, for most students, it's quite clear which style you're using, but for some students it's not, and it's a bit confusing, so it's hard to mark. So if you're using APA, just put it at the top of your reference list, or if you're using Harvard, put it there, and then that helps us to provide you with the specific feedback on the style of referencing that you're using. Following on from the referencing and closely aligned to that is the use of literature. So this is where we're wanting you to undertake research and use external sources to support what you're saying. Very important in a business report and an essay style assignment. And what we found in marking this one is that people are working with quite a lot of sources, but they're not academic or peer-reviewed literature. There's a lot of Seek, there's a lot of industry websites being used. It's okay to use some of the industry websites when you're researching a specific industry, that's okay, but it's also important that you're using academic sources as well. And to achieve a high distinction in this area, we're certainly looking for you to use credible academic sources, and we've spoken about this in the collaborate session. So the other feedback on this was sourcing insightful and useful information for the reader beyond the surface level observation and or assumption. So what that means is, rather than just including the information, you need to explain it and show that you understand it, and analyse it. So, and work towards supporting all claims and key points in your writing. And that's really key to improving your marks in this particular criteria, so that you can actually demonstrate an understanding. So if you're making a key point, try to find some evidence to back it up. I know lots of students had stats and support for the job prospect section, which was great to see. So that's the sort of thing we're wanting to see. The other important point with use of literature is making sure that you demonstrate your own understanding of the research you've used. So really avoid either just mentioning the research, or alternatively just putting the research in without explaining why it's being included. And often students don't paraphrase, they'll have a direct quote. And it's really important to work towards paraphrasing the information, because this demonstrates an understanding of the research that you're including in your writing. Okay, the final section of feedback we wanted to give is the report writing and structure. And this is really specific to A2. It's not going to affect you that much for your assignment in A3, because it's a different type of assignment. So I won't go into huge details in this particular feedback audio recording, but the information is there for you. So just be mindful of your writing, whether you're writing in the third or first person. Business reports are generally written in the third person, and it's important that you are consistent with that throughout with this. Some of the students were changing between one or the other, and this certainly disrupts the flow and makes it a bit confusing for the reader as well. So use formal language in a business report, avoid reflective writing, and also conversational language. Really important to follow the business report structure, and we also gave you a suggested structure in this assignment to follow. So do follow that. We give it to you for a reason, and it's important that you follow the structure. For an example, executive summary goes after the title page and before the table of contents. And start each main section of the report on a new page. This helps with the structure and flow of a report. One of the key things which lots of students find difficult is the difference between an executive summary and an introduction. So I've included some information here about what an executive summary normally includes and what an introduction normally includes. They follow each other. Try not to have them include exactly the same information. It's important that they address different things. And I guess the key with the executive summary is that it stands alone. So if someone was to read the executive summary, they'd have a good understanding of what the report was about, why it was done, what the conclusions were, and what the recommendations were. So they wouldn't necessarily have to read the report, whereas the introduction is more a background and sets the scene and outlines what the report is going to cover. We've talked about the bullet points in the findings and analysis section and expanding on your key points. The other thing was the conclusion and recommendations. They are different, and it's a good idea to have them as two separate sections to keep them separate, and important that both of these link back to the findings and analysis section and have been informed by the research that you've undertaken. So the conclusion is generally a summary of your findings and analysis, and it links back to the purpose of the report, and you don't need to bring in any new information into that section. Whereas the recommendation is actually suggesting possible actions and including when these recommendations are to be implemented. So for this particular assignment, we were wanting you to set out really clear recommendations and actions for you to follow in order for you to be able to achieve your desired career pathway. Okay, and remember that they need to be really specific and actionable. Okay, so that's a bit of a summary of general feedback. If you have any questions, please get in touch with your ELA, and we wish you all the best for putting the finishing touches to your third assignment. Thanks for listening. Bye.